Home video entertainment has proven to be a crucial part in the representation of archived television programs. The Doctor Who home media range is a beloved merchandising format and has consistently proven to be highly popular among fans for decades. A casual pastime for fans of the series is to speculate over upcoming home media releases. Fans are highly passionate and dedicated to their Doctor Who collection and delight in creating their own fan covers of physical media releases, alongside speculating which extras could potentially appear on a release, or what stories could have or will be released in a Doctor Who physical media range. This cements how dedicated fans are to the cause of the presentation of their favourite programme, and proves how popular the home media range of Doctor Who stories have become. It therefore makes for the perfect discussion of the topic. Doctor Who, the complete history of the BBC VHS range, will explore the first full home media range that the series was made available in. This investigation will examine into a period before the rise of home video, in discussing how fans enjoyed the programme and how the rise of home video dramatically revolutionised the presentation of watching home entertainment. This then expands to cover the entire history of the Doctor Who VHS range across 1983 to 2003. This will cover how the range evolved across 20 years simultaneously with the programme throughout the 1980s, the wilderness years, and notable landmark occasions for fans such as the 30th anniversary or the TV movie. The investigation will then explore the rebranding of the entire Doctor Who range in the 1990s and the pioneering team of film enthusiasts who brought about the video range. From the iconic artistry of the VHS covers to the restoration team who painstakingly restored episodes to their former glory, or to their best closest approximation as possible. The effects of wider world events significantly impacted the release schedule of Doctor Who tapes. The rise of DVD eventually put an end to the VHS at a time when the Doctor Who range of tapes was winding down. The impact of recovering lost material from the programme brought about some of the best-selling tapes by offering the general public the first opportunity of a tangible format to experience episodes by. This investigation will specialise in the UK Region 2 VHS range and will not discuss the Betamax or Laserdisc range of stories, nor will the American, European, or Australian releases of the series, or the Peter Cushing films, as well as the Mythmakers documentaries or the Wilderness Years spin-off videos. The UK home video revolution had begun with the launch of JVC's HR 3300 EK, the first UK video home system format videotape cassette recorder. Although Sony's superior Betamax video format had appeared earlier, it was VHS that would dominate the home video market. 4.5 million recorders were already owned in the UK, with 200,000 new owners of videotape recorders appearing every month by the early 1980s. The concept of a videotape containing a program or feature film for general consumption may appear primitive compared to today's standards, having to watch entertainment on a lower quality form of image and having to require to rewind tapes back to the start to begin rewatching a program. Owning a program on a cassette, allowing people the opportunity to watch a program whenever they wanted, was an incredibly exciting prospect by the 1980s. Videotapes also allow people the opportunity to record programs live on TV for rewatch. Holding a program released on tape for the consumption of the general public was an expensive luxury. In the early days, tapes would be rented much like library books, before tapes were finally have been able to have been purchased in the possession of a buyer towards the mid-1980s. The benefits of the video meant that people could watch programs whenever they wanted, at a time period where the opportunity to rewatch older programs was unavailable. This became the revolution of the home video market. Whovians, in order to acquire enjoying their favourite program, had to work a great deal harder to enjoy Doctor Who as a medium. Target novelizations provided a reconstructed version of older serials for pros, and the BBC would occasionally repeat a story that was only a year or two old in summer or Christmas slots. The Five Faces of Doctor Who BBC Two repeat season at the end of 1981 and BBC One's Doctor Who and the Monster season from summer 1982 offered fans the glimpse to rerun many stories from a far earlier period of the show's history for the first time to watch and record on their videos publicly. Other means fans could have acquired to watch older stories was paying for syndicated pirate video copies on the black market, albeit not in necessarily high quality. In 1983, the BBC was finally allowed to exploit other titles from the archive following an agreement between the BBC and the British government's unions representing actors, writers, and musicians. The first BBC titles to be released under the new deal were The Best of the Two Ronnies, Butterflies, The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin, and the 1975 Doctor Who adventure Revenge of the Cybermen. Revenge of the Cybermen became the first official serial to receive a home video release from BBC Enterprises. In April 1983, at the Longleat Doctor Who 20th anniversary celebration, BBC Enterprises announced they intended to release a Doctor Who title as part of a range to launch BBC programmes onto home video. At the event, fans were given a questionnaire to ask to write for a title they would like to see released on a public video format. The story that had the most requests was the title to be released later that year on video. On the 3rd of October 1983, the first commercial home media release of Doctor Who came in the form of Revenge of the Cybermen, the story that was the most wanted serial for a video release based on Longleat's poll. Conspiracy theorists have speculated that out of all the stories chosen for a release, the serial with the most votes was actually The Tomb of the Cybermen. As the story was at the time missing in the archives, BBC Video substituted a colour Cyberman story instead. According to BBC research, 85% of domestic video cassette recorders were rented, and it was at this market that the new releases were aimed at. The BBC's research also suggested that customers responded well to family entertainment feature films. Hence, Revenge of the Cybermen was presented in an edited, compiled format where all 4 episodes were joined together. The tape was charged at £39.95 for purchase. The controversial artwork designed by Sid Sutton, who had designed the title sequences of the 1980s seasons, featured the then current Doctor Who neon logo and title sequence for the background of the artwork. This featured alongside a 4th Doctor within his season 18 costume, alongside a Cyberman from Earthshock. Nevertheless, the positive reaction from fans of the story's release led to the beginning of the VHS range that would span over 20 years. Based on the feedback of fans about the cover, Revenge of the Cybermen was re-released on home video in May 1984 at a lower price of £24.95 and featured new artwork from Sutton that better suited the story, with the correct Cyberman, the 4th Doctor from season 12, and also the iconic diamond-shaped logo. This style of cover would become the mainstay for the range and set the style for the rest of the beginning of the VHS range. The Brain of Morbius, the second serial released in the range, came out in July 1984 in another omnibus format. This was in fact an edited version of the serial, prepared from autumn 1976 omnibus rerun of the story on BBC One that ran to approximately 1 hour, removing over a third of the serial's plot. Over the course of the next couple of years, BBC Enterprises could only afford to release several serials per year due to the cost of videotapes. All these tapes were edited into an omnibus format, as was general practice for home media releases throughout the 1980s, much to the discontent of fans. In 1987, BBC Video adapted its focus towards the new, fast-growing sell-through market. The price of the old and new BBC tapes were charged at an affordable £9.99. The release of Death to the Daleks in July 1987 became the most successful Doctor Who video ever, spending 11 weeks in the retail charts and selling more than 50,000 copies. From the immense success of this release, archive programs became a regular and affordable addition to fans' collections. The public release of stories meant that fans could attain an informed perspective of serials. By now, fans were excited to be getting their hands on physical Doctor Who media without having to rent or borrow any tapes. As BBC Enterprises realised there was a market for Doctor Who tapes and continued to distribute more stories, the artwork of tapes adapted to become more dynamic as opposed to displaying a set of still images as a cover for a story. Fans were becoming vocal about the presentation of Doctor Who on home video and were becoming increasingly unhappy with the omnibus format stories were being released in. The release of The Daleks in July 1989 saw the first time a Doctor Who story was released on home video in episodic format, allowing fans to experience a story as it was originally transmitted. The Daleks was also the first release to be split across 2 videotapes. As the programme entered the wilderness years, BBC Enterprises began a more robust release schedule of their VHS range, now no longer in edited omnibus versions, and now sporting regular art-based covers from Alistair Pearson and Andrew Skilleter. The vibrant artwork for these video covers became one of the range's most distinctive and fondly remembered aspects. The programme was no longer running on the air for the near future as it seemed, but the programme was kept alive through other forms of media, such as the VHS range, while other fans still held out hope for a new series. The video range therefore became an essential medium for fans to consume and indulge in the series by being allowed to build a library of Doctor Who stories. The VHS release of The Curse of Fenric in February 1991 was an extended edit of the serial that was overseen by 1980s producer John Nathan Turner, who created a new version of the story to reinstate the deleted material of the serial. The result was a more coherent and beloved version of the narrative, and proved to be one of the most popular Doctor Who tapes ever released. 1991 saw the start of specially commissioned videotapes that were aimed to serve as a guide to the series' history. Having now finished working on the programme, J&T oversaw a number of these tapes that reflected a particular Doctor or particular monster's period on the show. These were released simultaneously with already existing stories as BBC Enterprises increased the rate of their release schedule throughout the early 1990s. The specially commissioned tapes helped to present the orphan episodes in a unique capacity compared to the rest of the series' remaining stories, featuring specially shot recorded narration footage by Doctors 3 through 7. The orphan episodes represented on these tapes offered the first public viewing of stories since their recovery back to the archives. The Tom Baker Years VHS release in 1992 was a special tape that featured the legendary Tom Baker viewing segments of each story in his era and casting his thoughts and memories throughout his popular tenure on the programme. The same year, Baker provided the linking material for the release of the then unfinished Sharda, therefore publicly releasing the completed footage of the story for the first time since it was filmed back in late 1979, and proved to be another highly successful release. The video release of The Tomb of the Cybermen the same year hot off the heels of being recovered from Hong Kong, was the only Doctor Who video release to achieve a #1 status within the retail charts. The swift release of this story, when it was immediately returned to the BBC archives, prevented any pirated copies from circulating among syndicates. This would in turn boost sales for the BBC when they came to directly releasing the tape as soon as possible. As the programme approached its 30th anniversary within 1993, the series returned on the BBC as part of BBC Two's cult viewing slot, showing examples of serials between the Seven Doctors. In late 1992, The Demons was repeated in a newly remastered colorized version and was released on video in 1993. Further colorizations of Third Doctor stories, only existing in black and white, followed as part of a groundbreaking project to restore colour to black and white John Pertwee stories. By combining an existing high-quality black and white film recording with a colour-recorded copy made by an American viewer, the result was a breathtaking phenomenon that led, for the first time, many Pertwee episodes, existing only in black and white, to be enjoyed for the first time in colour since the 1970s. The formation of this group of film technicians and enthusiasts were later to become the Doctor Who Restoration Team. These were dedicated film preservation experts who brought about vastly improved remasters of old stories to preserve archive stories for future generations to enjoy. Up to this point, no restoration work had been made on improving the quality of stories for video releases, and this resulted in episodes being sourced from low-quality copies with frequent audio and picture faults. The colour restorations of The Demons, Terror of the Autons, and the Silurians were the first serials the restoration team had any control to restore the picture quality of Doctor Who on video. Their work would continue to impact the range minorly throughout the course of the next few years, before the team would work on the programme more consistently, overseeing the best surviving material, home media consumption. Further anniversary treats were to follow for fans throughout 1993. An extended version of Silver Nemesis was completed and released in April based on the success of the Curse of Fenric extended edit, released 2 years beforehand. The tape also included the New Jersey Network documentary The Making of Doctor Who, offering a unique US critique on the programme. In June, fans were treated to The Invasion, a 2-tape set comprising linking narration provided by Nicholas Courtney to fill in for the missing episodes. These 2 releases proved to be the last contribution TNT would make for the VHS range. Plans were afoot for more special tapes, including further years tapes dedicated to the 5th, 6th, and 7th Doctors. However, never came any further than the Colin Baker year's release. Only made as this had already been filmed before the decision was made for JNT to cease work on the BBC VHS range. In autumn 1993, fans were treated with the first of 2 VHS box sets in the range, both of which became 2 more bestsellers for the range, and each sold over 40,000 copies. September 1993 saw a tinned box set dedicated to the Daleks, containing 2 Dalek stories within, and a special 46-page text focusing on the history of the Daleks. And in October that year, The Trial of a Time Lord was featured in a deluxe TARDIS tin set and featured all 14 episodes of season 23 across 3 tapes, thereby making it the first physical form of Doctor Who medium to be presented as one whole series. As the BBC's repeat of older stories ended in 1994, the range began to release stories together in pairs simultaneously that featured a linking theme between them. For example, stories featuring the same villain or recurring character would be released back to back. Carnival of Monsters and The Android Invasion, both directed by Barry Letts, were released together in March 1995. The 2 Rani stories were released at the same time in July 1995, as were both stories featuring the Sea Devils in September 1995. The range was beginning to offer further special releases. Pertwee stories such as the aforementioned Carnival of Monsters and the Sea Devils were released with exclusive cards alongside the VHS of the serials. Earlier releases of stories that came out in the 1980s were being re-released, as advertised, in their complete and unedited formats as opposed to their omnibus formats. The entire Key to Time story arc forming season 16 was released throughout the spring of 1995, with spine art that featured special artwork of the Key to Time with a blue background to encourage fans to collect the entire series of the arc. And the 30th anniversary BBC documentary was released as part of the range in an extended edition, which achieved a number 15 in the retail chart. Video specials were becoming even more regular by 1995, the year the VHS range peaked by consistently releasing nearly a couple of stories every month. The 100th Doctor Who video release was a special release containing the King's Demons and a new specially produced version of the Five Doctors titled The Five Doctors Special Edition. The new Five Doctors was overseen by the restoration team and inserted extended material and new CGI effects alongside a newly mixed 5.1 surround sound score. The result was an enhanced version of the 20th anniversary epic, which has served as an alternative to the original version. The release schedule significantly dropped in 1996, with the launch of the upcoming TV movie aimed to relaunch Doctor Who for the 1990s. BBC Worldwide aimed to relaunch the Doctor Who brand to accommodate the start of what was hoped to be a new era for the programme. The purging of the backlog of Doctor Who tapes led to several stories in particular being difficult to track down in the years that followed until they received a later re-release either on VHS or on DVD in the 2000s. The first under this new brand was the TV movie, transmitted on BBC One and released on video in May 1996. The video release, and also the BBC One transmitted version, removed several scenes determined by the British Board of Film Classification and the BBC to be too disturbing for a family viewing audience. This was in part as a result of the events that happened in a school in Dunblane, Scotland, on the 13th of March, where a gunman opened fire on a hall full of children, killing 17 people, in which 16 of them were children. This had a knock-on effect over censorship, any use of guns on TV or film for most of that year. This shooting remains the deadliest firearms massacre in UK history. Early reaction from the BBC to the film suggested talk of the film receiving as high as a 15 rating, and assessed the film to be placed within similar territory with The X-Files. The TV movie, in the end, received a 12 rating, and was the only Doctor Who VHS tape to receive a 12 age rating. The TV movie was licensed by BBC Worldwide in the UK for home media release. Any international video releases were under control by Universal Pictures, who own the international distribution rights of the TV movie. The VHS release received high promotion to celebrate the return of Doctor Who back to television, and achieved 40,000 sold copies, becoming the third best-selling Doctor Who VHS release of all time. The launch of the TV movie also paid tribute to the passing of Jon Pertwee, who died on the 20th of May 1996. BBC Worldwide dedicated a special release to the actor in October 1996 with a double-pack VHS of The Green Death. In 1997, when the Doctor Who brand had identified itself once more under new BBC Worldwide management, releases became more sporadic, and work was paid closer attention to the remastered quality of stories. The team behind the BBC's Doctor Who brand management, Steve Cole, Justin Richards, and Alex Rayner, led with their passion of the programme to provide the best continuation of the series as possible following the TV movie. The regeneration of the branding saw a new chroma dot logo established for the range, and hand-painted artwork for covers was done away with. The first video release to receive an extensive overhaul to the range was the War Machines, released in June 1997. The covers were now designed by Black Sheep using Photoshop to create new, at times controversial, images. The War Machines was the first story to undergo major restoration from the restoration team under the new branding. The picture and sound quality was significantly improved to allow a far more pleasant viewing experience. The 35th anniversary year was celebrated among the video range by representing a serial from each Doctor's era to be released on VHS. The restoration team were becoming increasingly involved with the release of stories to video, consistently overseeing the releases onto video to the best available picture quality. This peaked in November 1998 with the Ice Warriors video box set. The incomplete story from 1967 was filled with a telesnap reconstruction, which was an exciting new step in the presentation of missing episodes. By using the existing soundtrack of the story alongside photographs of shots from the story, a missing episode could be brought back to life and enjoyed in a new medium. Telesnaps are now an established format within the Doctor Who community to watch lost episodes with. A similar reconstruction was constructed for the 10th Planet Episode 4 for the story's video release in 2000. The Ice Warriors VHS also commissioned with a special documentary, The Missing Years, which examined the missing episodes range by discussing how episodes of Doctor Who became lost and also how episodes have been preserved and saved for future generations. The documentary featured clips throughout 1960s stories, including fragments left of several serials, alongside interviews from missing episode collectors and archivists. The Missing Years ultimately became the style that future Doctor Who documentaries would be based on, particularly among the DVD range, and provides a crucial investigation into examining Doctor Who lore, history, and culture. Hot on the heels of this documentary, the recovery of another lost episode from New Zealand brought about a new special video set, which came out in June 1999. The newly recovered episode 1, along with the surviving episode 3 of The Crusade, was released in a box set alongside the Space Museum. Episode 1 of The Crusade brought about unique difficulties for the restoration team to remaster due to the poor quality recording of the surviving print. For this release, William Russell returned in character as Ian Chesterton to narrate the missing sections of the story. As the stories left to release on VHS began to dwindle by 1999, BBC Worldwide made the decision to decrease the number of stories released per year. Earlier stories that were released on VHS back in the 1980s and early 1990s were being frequently re-released for video in newly unedited formats or with newly remastered transfers. The video of the comic relief special The Curse of a Fatal Death in September 1999 was dedicated for further donations to comic relief, and established a new logo matching the 1996 TV movie, which became the mainstay Doctor Who logo for the remainder of the VHS range. Tapes by now were starting to come with special bonus extras from contemporary material from the serial's broadcast period, such as actors on talk shows, continuity announcements, and specially made video trailers. BBC Video continued to commemorate the series' anniversary month with a special array of limited edition video box sets. The Daleks Tin Set 2 in November 1999 was released alongside the start of another BBC repeat season, continuing to rerun Doctor Who's TV adventures with audio-visual remastering overseen by the restoration team. The release of the Dalek Tin Set coincided with the start of the BBC's Doctor Who DVD range, beginning with the Five Doctors Special Edition. The enhanced picture quality of the discs, combined with assortments of special features, interactive menus, scene selection, photo galleries, and sound options, meant that DVD was a far more marketable and more pleasant digital viewing experience. The DVDs were far better cased and longer lasting compared to the clunkier videotape, which took up far less space on the shelf. The rise of DVD signalled the end of the VHS. As the Doctor Who DVD range was beginning to start, the VHS range was beginning to wind down by releasing the remaining serials as yet to be released on video. Various older videotapes of the Doctor Who range would be occasionally re-released in new limited edition box sets. At the start of 2002, BBC Worldwide announced their intention to release the remainder of the Doctor Who series on video by the time of the show's 40th anniversary in November 2003. The January 2000 release of Planet of Giants pioneered the vidfire technique to restore the video look of 1960s black and white episodes, which only survive on film material. As entire Doctor's runs were being completed on video, many of the most challenging of the remaining episodes as yet to be released on VHS were tackled by the Doctor Who restoration team. One of these was The Ambassadors of Death, released in May 2002. Having failed in recolorizing the story back in 1993, alongside the other early Pertwee serials, which suffered similar color problems to them. The restoration team's new technology allowed for a better attempt to restore the black and white material to its former color glory. As per the 1990s Pertwee colorizations, the masters were created by combining a high-quality black and white film copy with a color videotape version made by a US fan in Chicago. The color copies of the Ambassadors of Death suffered from a distorted rainbow effect, rendering much of the color material as unusable. Other than the surviving color videotape of episode 1, only episode 5 and the majority of episode 6 were in full color. Only sections of episodes 2, 3, and 7 that were deemed to have sufficient amount of time and good material were featured in color, meaning the story often phased from being black and white to color. The entirety of episode 4 was left unusable and left in black and white. Throughout the 40th anniversary year of the series, the Doctor Who VHS range came to a close with the last remainder of serials yet to be released on video. The tapes featured a special 40th anniversary badge to commemorate the series. The last complete story to be released was Invasion of the Dinosaurs in October 2003. The final stories yet to be released in the range were featured in an exclusive W.H. Smith set in November 2003, containing the surviving episodes of The Reign of Terror, along with linking narration provided by Carol Ann Ford for the missing episodes. The set also featured the surviving episodes of The Faceless Ones and The Web of Fear, alongside some recently recovered footage from The Web of Fear. Episode 3 of The Faceless Ones was another episode that suffered significant restoration problems. As this story was considered unreleasable for many years, it was once again left at the very end of the range due to the number of missing frames throughout the existing episode. By the end of 2003, every story that existed in the BBC archives of Doctor Who had been released on video. The first release of Revenge of the Cybermen was in October 1983, and just over 20 years later, the Doctor Who VHS range was one of the largest VHS ranges in the world, allowing fans the first opportunity of a full physical library of archived Doctor Who. Much like the programme, the range evolved and adapted with the times. Now, DVD was taking over and would provide a new medium for fans to enjoy their favourite programme. And with the future of Doctor Who looking optimistic for 2005, the VHS range had released 17 William Hartnell stories, 6 Patrick Troughton stories, 24 John Pertwee stories, 41 Tom Baker stories, 20 Peter Davison stories, 8 Colin Baker stories, 12 Sylvester McCoy releases, and 1 Paul McGann release, combined with all the other special VHS releases over the years as well. For an abundance of fans, the VHS range also provides some of the most nostalgic memories that they associate with the programme and the period Doctor Who was represented.